Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now I recently found this Intel Confidential CPU for £80, just over $100 US. It's a pre-production engineering sample of an i9-12900K. The seller actually listed it as an 11900K, so it was a nice surprise when they contacted me after posting it to say it was a 12th gen part. Unfortunately, the good news ends there. Engineering samples, or ES chips, are sent out by Intel to manufacturers for pre-release validation and testing, though some inevitably make their way to online marketplaces. A 12900K for less than half the current used price may sound tempting, but in my opinion it isn't worth the headache. There's a reason this video is only a few minutes long. First of all, I spent a small fortune trying to find a compatible motherboard. Even after flashing them with their earliest BIOS revisions, my go-to Z790 and H610 boards didn't work. The DRAM light remained illuminated with various DDR5 configurations and speeds, all producing the same result. The H610 board uses DDR4, but the problem here is that it has a single PCIe X16 slot. Oh, did I mention that any discrete graphics card used with this thing needs to be plugged into a secondary PCIe X4 slot? Yeah. The whole situation was so stressful that it made all my hair fall out. No, I shaved it off, it was way too hot the other day. Anyway, it's a couple of weeks later now, and I thought the whole ES video idea was going straight in the bin, but I want to talk about it a little more because I tried a couple of chips and I ended up with a sort of own brand Chinese board that did work with the Q7XE. That said, it didn't work for long. I managed to fire it up and we got to experience Windows with it, albeit at a significantly reduced clock speed. It seemed to hit about 3.8 GHz on all cores, and this is with the GPU in PCIe X4 mode. Now this was just a basic DDR5 board, but unfortunately we couldn't use any higher speeds than 4800 MHz with the RAM, and this wasn't just a unique case scenario, but I've also read about this and watch this in other videos too. So my next plan was to get another ES chip, and I ended up with a QXLB, which is basically another 12900K engineering sample. All the footage and everything else has been deleted because, like I said, I was ready to give up with this video a couple of weeks ago, and I just thought, yeah, I'm never going to come back to this, but I thought it's Sunday, why not? Don't know why that has anything to do with it, but yeah, not really sure why I said that. Anyway, I thought it's a Sunday. Haven't really got anything else to upload. We may as well talk about it just in case any of you as well are looking at purchasing one of these. So the QXLB, basically another 12900K ES, albeit clocked slightly lower. On paper 1.2 instead of 1.8 GHz, and this was a similar story. Ran at about 3.8 GHz on all cores. We could overclock this to 4 GHz and it ran fine. Any higher and the system would crash, but again, we were looking at 4800 MHz memory. Now performance wise, everything felt okay considering we were using 4800 MHz RAM and that we were stuck with PCIe X4 for our discrete graphics card. I used this setup for a couple of days and all of a sudden it decided not to work, so we were back to square one essentially. So now comes the part in the video that feels like cheating a little bit. Now, I know what the ES QXLB is capable of. It will hit 4 GHz, albeit with 4800 MHz DDR5 and our GPU in PCIe X4 mode. What I've actually done is purchased a 12900K and sort of simulated the performance that you could expect from the ES chip using those same settings, just to get an idea of how they differ. It's worth noting as well that the ES sample consumed less than 80 watts and only ran at about 50 to 55 degrees with a cheap aftermarket Assassin King 120 SE cooler. A regular consumer 12900K will use more power than this and it will run hotter, but if we take a look at some gameplay results now, well, hopefully this does an accurate job of highlighting the performance differences between an ES chip and a regular 12900K that anyone can buy from pretty much every used selling site these days. So as a reminder, the QXLB or QX70 will run with a lower all-core clock speed. We will be limited to PCIe X4 for the GPU, so you'll have to use it in the second slot basically. And in terms of memory, at least with these two examples, we will be limited to DDR5 4800. When it comes to DDR4, well, I'm not sure because I didn't get a DDR4 board that worked. Now, the performance differences between an ES chip and a 12900K retail example, well, it's going to vary on a game-by-game basis. Some games will be more limited by the lower clock speeds and the fact that the GPU is running in PCIe X4 mode, and others won't be as heavily affected. It really is a game-by-game basis. What I will say though is that after everything I've been through with both of these chips, I cannot recommend one of these at all. It is simply too much hassle. Now I think these probably worked out of the box perhaps a lot easier a couple of years ago when the platform was new and motherboards still had old microcodes. I'm not sure if that even makes sense. Whether or not it would have been easier to find compatible boards a couple of years ago, I don't know, but there are still some out there. There isn't much info as to which do work though, and there are just too many notable problems. Considering it's taken me like 3 weeks to put this video together out of pure frustration, can't say I'd recommend an engineering sample i9, but that's just me. I wish I could have gone more in depth with this video, but I'm totally done with this subject after this. Thanks as always for watching, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next one.